Good morning, everyone. I'm Crystal King, your Arbonne consultant and kind of the recording person for Zoom today. But I'm hoping that if you're watching live and you are watching the recording, that you take lots of notes. Mary is a huge, huge influence, and she knows how to meet people. She knows how to meet and influence people. So I hope that you take notes. This is going to be, I think, a really great training. And so my direct upline, Mary Joanis.
Thanks, Crystal. Good morning, you guys. I do have to tell you that I've only got about 5 hours of sleep. So I was up late. I don't know what the heck I was doing with that. But anyway, yes, my name is Mary Joanis. I'm an area manager with Arbonne. I celebrated my 30th year as a consultant in August. So, wow, I'm not that old. I don't know how that happened, but anyway, it's been an amazing ride. When I started Arbonne, I was a teacher and really wanted time and flexibility to raise my kids. And now 30 years later, I'm still loving Arbonne, loving helping people, and it's great for retirement. So it's been a great ride, and I get to be around people like Crystal and Laurel. I mean, how cool is that? Today, we're going to talk about a topic that I think is near and dear to everyone, because it's about dealing with people. And one of my favorite authors, Dale Carnegie, who wrote his book in 1937, says that dealing with people is probably the biggest challenge you'll have as a business person. And I would add into that as a person, because we have to deal with people every day. Last night I was at a happy hour with some girlfriends from high school, and one of my friends had already had a couple of drinks before she came, and she was not abiding by any of these rules that we're going to talk about today. And I sat there just like wanting to shut her up. But anyway, we can use these skills wherever we are. So I took notes, and I'm going to have to try and read my notes. But what's interesting is that I've taken on Vita and Bev's challenge about having 30 conversations, 30 business conversations in 30 days. Well, I've changed it to 20 by the end of the month. But I realized that I wasn't following what I was reading. I've been reading this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And when I started thinking about this training, I started thinking about, oh man, I'm not even doing what I'm reading. And so I encourage us as we do personal development to figure out how to apply it, not just read it, talk about it, but really apply it. But since I started reading the book, I catch myself not doing what he tells us to do. So I think that's the first step, is noticing what we're not doing so that we can change it. And what I noticed, that I was just reading the script. We have a script that goes through the whole process, but I was just reading the script, getting it done, promising 20 to 30 minutes and getting the script done. But so fun interaction with people, but not getting down to the deep gritty. And so I would love your reactions to this as we go through. I'm going to just talk about the first couple chapters because it's all so great. And then I'll share with you what I learned about what I wasn't doing. So the first rule of getting along with people by Dale Carnegie. And I have to say, I have the new book right here. This is the book that you would get if you wanted to read this, which I highly recommend. Most of us have read it a couple of times, but it's one of those things where there it is right there. It's one of those things that this is a book that you want to reread. The one I'm reading was printed in 1945 during the war. And so it has this weird paper in it, and it's old school. So he talks about people of his time. When they rewrote the book, I think they used modern people, but I'm a history major. So this was really fun for me to read in the old style. And he talks only to men. in 1945, which is not surprising back then. But so I think that one's more gender neutral, but I really like this copy. It's really special, but none of it has really changed. It's just he uses different people. So the first rule is be generally interested in others. And they did it, the telephone company back then did a study, and they monitored people's conversations, and their goal was to find out what word was used the most. And they found, guess what word you think was used the most in these conversations that they were monitoring? One word stood.
I think that's a hard question because I mean, Laurel and I weren't even thoughts. Our parents weren't. I don't even think my mom was born when the original book came out.
And you know what, Crystal? It doesn't matter what era. What they found out of 500 conversations was the most used word was I. And it was used 3,999 times in 500 conversations. The word I think that's really significant. Guess that might tell us something about be genuinely interested in others, because guess what? That's what we're interested in ourselves. He also tells, the book is so great because he gives examples, and yeah, Theodore Roosevelt, well, he was way back when, but we all know who he is. Anyway, he tells about Theodore Roosevelt as president, and his valet lived in a cottage on the property. And his wife told him, oh, I'm supposed to read this page, 77. Sorry, I'm still just waking up. Okay, here we go. It's so good. This is from the valet. My wife one time asked the president about a bobwhite. She had never seen one, and he described it to her fully. Sometime later, the telephone rang at our cottage, and the cottage that he lived on the Roosevelt estate. My wife answered it, and it was Mr. Roosevelt himself. This is a president calling the valet's wife. He had called her to say there was a bobwhite outside her window, and if she would look out the window, she might see it. Little things like that were so characteristic of him. Whenever he went by our cottage, even though we were out of sight, he would yell, we would hear him yell out, "Yeah, oh, James." It was just a friend greeting a friend, but truly interested in this woman who had said she was interested in the bobwhites. Another example he gave is this man was doing a research for a bank, and he went to this high level industrial guy because he needed to get the information from this guy. And when he went in, this big leader guy was really non-responsive. But before he went into the room, he heard his secretary tell him, "Hey, boss, just wanted to let you know that there's no stamps today for your son." And so that clicked in his head. And he got nowhere with the guy that first day. And so he went back to the bank knowing that they had a whole vault of old stamps, and he found some cool stamps, went back to this guy the next day with these stamps for his son. The man was overly joyed, enthusiastic, let the guy come in. They spent a couple hours talking. So those were examples of really paying attention to that other person and finding out what they're interested in and what their passion is. And I think that that's really important for us to pay attention to. We have an agenda. We want to do this Discover Arbonne, click off a name, but is that really what we're doing, or are we doing something more than that? So I wanted to just put it out there. What do you guys think are areas of commonality that can be brought into a conversation? I got to turn my heat on. Fine. So what areas of commonality do you think we could be bringing up with people?
Needs,
This is where,
wants, desires,
okay. Dreams.
dreams.
Great. What are you dreaming about?
Food. What are you spending
Food.
your money on?
Okay. Food.
Yeah. Food.
Definitely. Health. That's one everybody likes to talk about. Oh, my heart hurts.
Everybody is more than willing to tell you what hurts on them.
So I wrote some down too, but I think food wasn't on my list, which is interesting because I love food. But I figure family, that's a commonality that everybody is really passionate about their family, their kids, of course. If you know their kids, they love talking about their kids, right? We all do. Jobs, we love sometimes bitching about our jobs, but people like to talk about their jobs. Their pets, their four-legged furries. We all like to, there's one right there. Oh, beautiful dog. Kind of like Crystal's dogs. Hobbies, like that guy who had the stamps, that was his hobby, or the woman who liked to look at birds. Traveling, community, especially if we're in the same community, we might have things in common. So being able to focus on what people are interested in, be genuinely interested in others. And that, I think, is number one, genuinely interested in others. The second one is easy. Okay, get your faces here. Smile. That's the second one, smile. And I have to say that through my life, my face is more neutral. And I've had people say to me, are you having any fun? And it's like, oh my God, I'm having a blast, but it's not showing on my face. So being able to really get that smile going. And I have to say, for the last 2 years of the pandemic, when we have masks on all the time, I've absolutely missed being able to smile at people. And yeah, we can kind of do it with our eyes, but there's nothing like a big smile. And it transforms people. You can do the experiment. Just look at somebody and smile and see what happens. Often their whole demeanor changes and they're just like, oh. So that's an easy one. Putting a smile on our face is a really easy one. But we do know people that, that if they smiled, you'd be afraid they'd crack their face, right? I mean, they just sourpusses, and we get to pick whether we want to hang out with those people or not. But maybe we can help him flip it around. The quote that he gave, an ancient Chinese saying, a man without a smiling face should not open a shop. Pretty good. And we all have our own shops. So having a smile makes a difference. So if you want to do an experiment, we went downtown the other day. I haven't been out much with this ankle, and we went downtown the other day, and it was so fun just smiling at people, just having that fun interaction, and and holidays and all as well. But I noticed that coming in and smiling and how are you, people are craving interaction. And so you can do a little experiment and just go smiling at people and see how that works. But that's number 2, and that's a really easy one to do. The third one, and I want input on this one too, remembering names. Our name is like our favorite thing, is our name. And I think it's funny because when you look at pictures now, Facebook, somebody posts something and you're in the picture, what's the first thing you do? Where am I? Right? We look to see where our picture is and how we look. We are the most important thing to ourselves. And so our name is something that we own. And I know from way back with Rita, getting it right, spelling it right, are really important. So he tells the story about Andrew Carnegie, and I'm not sure if they were related or not, but he was a very famous railroad guy. But when he was young, he had a mother rabbit, and we know what happens to mother rabbits. They have lots of babies, and he was having a hard time feeding them. So he told his friends, go pick clover, whole clover, and dandelions for me, and bring them for the rabbits, and I'll name a rabbit after you. And that was all it took. They all got on the bandwagon, brought him a bunch of food because they wanted a rabbit named after themselves. And years later, the same guy went to, wanted to buy this other railroad, Pennsylvania Railroad. I mean, it kind of reminds you of the game. Anyway, Monopoly. So he goes to this big magistrate of the other railroad, and they're doing this negotiation, and it's kind of difficult negotiation. And the other guy says to Carnegie, well, what would we name this company? And Carnegie goes, well, of course, after you. And that was all it took to finish the deal. This company is going to be named after me. Carnegie didn't care. He was into making money, but he knew that it would make a difference to this guy. So, and how many times have you said I'm terrible at remembering names? I mean, that was one of the things Rita used to say. No, wipe that away. Instead, say I'm getting better at remembering names. So what are your tips? What are your tricks for remembering names, you guys?
I'm actually quite good at this. So one of the ways that I get to know people in organizations that I belong to is I volunteer to help with registration. So I'm a Chandler Chamber member and ambassador, and I help with registration twice a month, almost every month. And because I do that, I have a list of people's names, and they have to tell me their name if I don't know it when they come in to wherever the event space we're in. So then I can match a name to a face, and normally I will say it right back to them immediately. You know, and that's one of the best tricks is when you're meeting somebody new, say their name back to them, and then try to say it at least 2 more times during your conversation, because at least 3 times helps you cement the name to the face.
Awesome.
And you know, if you can do it 7 times, you're never going to forget. Like it'll be in there forever. But at least 3 times. And for me, you know, like it's I remember their first name, but sometimes I'm checking them in by their last name. You know, they're constantly changing, like if it's alphabetical by first name or last name. And so I'm going, oh shoot, I know your first name. And so I'll just say, hey, remind me of your last name, you know. And that's an easy thing to do if you forgot someone's name. You know, there's great tricks that you can remember. Introduce them to somebody, and you know, you're introducing the person that you know, and you go, oh, this is my husband Chip, and then they'll say, oh, I'm Charlotte, you know, or I'm Laura, or you know, and then you don't have to say you forgot their name. You can just use that trick because you've introduced somebody else to them. And it really is changing your mindset around it, just like everything else. If you say you're going to be bad at it, you're going to be bad at it. If you say you're really good at remembering people, you're going to remember them.
You're going to get better at it. Laurel, what about you? What kind of tricks do you use for remembering names?
I think those are really good tips that Crystal gave, but I think how she said at least 3 or up to 7 times, I think repetition helps me. Like if I first see them and then I see them again, I'm like, crap, what was their name? And then you see them again and then you start to remember. So I'm getting better at that.
There you go. That's the words. And you know what I found? My husband's terrible at this, because if he doesn't remember their name, he like just doesn't remember their name. But I don't have a problem with saying, you know, I remind me what your name is. I think that's better than avoiding the issue, is just asking again, saying, remind me what your name is. Some of the tricks that I have done during the years is, one, repeating is really important, is repeating. The other one is, because I'm a real tactile person, I'll even write Crystal on my thigh, just with my finger, just because writing it down really helps for me. And then the other thing is associations. And so, you know, I'm really trying to get people's, when I meet somebody, to get their name and phone number in here. But then it's like, it gets lost in the phone, right? If you don't have it really there. So I'll do things like this woman I met, Jeannie with the blue glasses, because I had commented about her blue glasses and we had laughed about cute glasses. And so if you put that into your phone and you what was that lady's name? Blue glasses. I can go blue glasses and her name's going to pop up. Or if I met somebody at Trader Joe's, I might say Sally and then put TJ's down below, so that when I'm trying to think of who is that woman at Trader Joe's, I can search for the association of the name. And so that's one of the tricks, is associating something with the name. Another one that he mentioned that I thought was really good was, if it's an unusual name, ask them how to spell it. And I don't hear out of one of my ears, so a lot of times I don't get the name right, but to say, how do you spell that? Even if their name's Christy, there's about 3 different ways to spell Christy. So asking people how they spell their name just focuses a little bit more attention on the name. And I think that that's really, I think that's magical, to be able to really remember people's names. The last one that I want to talk about today is be a good listener. Care, what does that say? Oh, encourage people to talk about themselves. Encourage people to talk about themselves. So I want to share my screen, because what I want to share with you is where I was screwing up. Okay. And it's not a screw up, right? Because I actually was having the conversations, but the area where I'm messing up, and Crystal, you should be surprised, because we used to sit for an hour and a half and talk with people because of how much we wanted to get that information out of them. But if you look at this is the script that we are using when we sit down with someone and do a direct discover Arbonne, right? Laurel, are you using this too?
Yep.
Okay, so I got to make it bigger. So I think when I'm looking at this, the business end of it, this is more triggering questions, not just reading the business, where you could own your own business with a low startup cost. What is that? What kind of question could that trigger for somebody to get them to talk? How could we flip that around a little bit so that we could get the other person to talk about themselves? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
What is the question that it should trigger for us?
Well, I think you could just turn it around and say, like, have they ever started a business? A lot of people have been in one of these companies. And, what was their investment if they had been in a business like this? Because, there are many companies out there that do require substantial startups and substantial investments, plus carrying an inventory.
Really important, Crystal, is, have you ever been in one before? Because then we can dive into that, because they may have prejudice from past experience. And I know that the statistics say that, like, I think it was for baby boomers, but like 80% of baby boomers have wished that they could start their own business. And so I think that we could trigger that. Have you ever thought about having your own business and getting them to talk about it, instead of just, oh, it's a low startup cost? I'm going to use that line to trigger the question, have you ever thought about having your own business? And how much do you think it would cost you to start that business? And then to say, what's so cool about Arbonne is you can have your own business for a very small startup cost. But having more of a conversation. So the second one is work the business alongside your current career, school schedule, or business lifestyle. So what do you think we could tweak that around to make it a question to get interaction?
Asking them about the flexibility in their current jobs. Do they have any flexibility?
Okay. And maybe, have you ever thought about having a side gig and being able to give that perspective that it is something on the side. It's not something you would quit your job for. That would probably give you a lot of information about their flexibility, their time. Oh my gosh, I work full time. I've got 3 kids. They're all in sports. I can't imagine adding anything more to my plate. And then we can have a conversation about that. Well, you know, what would make it worth it to add something more to your plate, and get people to talk. The reason I'm so aware of this is my last conversation was with an old high school buddy, and I asked her, what's your reaction? And I had posted this on Zoom so she could look at it too. And she said it was really distracting. And you're such a personable person, but you were reading this instead of interacting with me. And so I'm not going to have this on the screen anymore. I might send it to him afterwards, but I need to ask these questions. And the bottom line is we need to be the good listener and encourage people to talk about themselves. So the third one is, you know, you get to share and you get to use and sell products that you love and earn when your clients and preferred clients order and reorder. So you can talk about, you know, do you use the products in the company that you're working in with right now? I remember Vita's husband, Daryl, talking about his job. And he said, you know what, I will never use the things that we're making. We're making widgets or whatever they were making. He goes, I will never use them. I have no personal investment in them at all. But Arbonne, we get to use all these products. And so to be able to say, you know, do you have a company that you can get all of your personal care and nutrition products from that you really support? Flipping it around so that you find out, well, maybe they shop just one company. And then on the next one is to have a global online business. You know, wouldn't it be cool to be able to have a business in Australia and get a reaction, find out if travel is something that people like to do? And then trips, that's the other question. Do you like to travel? Where have you traveled? Where's your favorite place to travel? Getting them to engage in the conversation, I think, is the key to these. I don't think we're supposed to just read them off. I think that they're designed to trigger questions. And then, of course, we tell them to learn. But then when we talk about the products, is cruelty-free important to you? Is vegan? Do you have a problem with gluten? You know, asking questions about all of this information. Is it going to take longer? Yeah. I don't think you can do this in 20 minutes. I think you need, if you're going to interact with people, it's going to take you longer. But I also believe that that's the point, is getting people to talk. And I noticed this is an old one because it says 45-day money back guarantee, and that's now 90 days. So this is an old one. And then right here, it's asking you, what if you could create more money and earn extra, create more opportunities to earn a little extra money? So we're kind of back and forth on that, but that's a question. We need to pause there and we need to listen. People kind of go, oh, you want me to answer that? Yeah, please do. So there's some questions that are triggered, but instead of just saying, what if you could earn more money? What if you could own your own business? What if you could choose who you work with, set your own schedule, improve your overall well-being, help change people's lives, and then move on? No, those are really important questions. So taking the time to let people answer those questions, I think, is huge. And like I said, if it takes longer than it's supposed to, well, I guess that's the way it goes. What do you guys do in this part of the presentation? Talk to me about that.
So I don't necessarily share the is Arbonne for you during the time that I'm talking to them about. You know, if I'm in person, I'll say, you know, I have this outline that I'm going to go through, you know, this sheet, and it just reminds me of all the things that I want to make sure I say to you. You know, I don't read any of the lines on here. I might say, you know, like, a little more detail about the products, but I'm looking to get people to talk to me. And so I want to focus on the what if you could section and getting those questions, then going straight into some facts of the did you know section. I know we all get a little weird, like a little stomach flip or a little weirdness when we talk about the money. But for me, I want to make sure that I am talking and telling them, look, these are the averages. The averages change every year, you know, and I'm not average and I wouldn't want you to be either, you know, kind of thing. And just share that information, you know, because it is just information. And so that's what I would tell people, you know, this is the average of what a consultant makes, you know, this is the average of what a district makes, you know, and just kind of be upfront. And because, and then I try to weave my personal story while I'm talking about this so that they know why I decided to choose to do this. You know,
Great.
I really practice. So I have one coming up scheduled on Monday. And so I will practice this weekend and make sure, and I'll time myself because I'm very integrous person and I want to honor everyone's time. And I want to make sure if I say 20 minutes, I mean 20 minutes, you know? And so I really try to be diligent about this. So I will be practicing and making sure that I have it down and that it's information. At the end of the day, I can't make that person's decision for them. All I can do is just go, okay, I don't know if this is a fit for you or not. And I can just put it out there and said, but you know, whatever reason you come up with for how or why you decided to talk to somebody and ask them to be a part of your business, I take that very seriously because I'm asking somebody to now be a part of my life. Yeah. And so I want to make sure I'm getting that across because that's a serious thing to me, you know.
Absolutely. And I think that if we really want them to talk about themselves, it's going to be more than 20 minutes. That we just need to tell them it's more than 20 minutes if we want them to really talk about themselves.
Well, and I'll tell them I'm going to talk for max 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay. There you go. That's a good way. And I was trying to get this to the second page, but technology isn't letting me. But I know one of the masters of this is Jenny Olden. And when you get to the money part, where district manager averaged about 500 to 1,000 a month, what would you do with an extra $500? And really pause and listen to what they would do with an extra $500. And then what would you do with an extra $1,000 to $1,500 or $5,000 a month as an area? What would you do with that money? How would that change your life? And connect the earnings to something that they are passionate about. Because it's all about them, right? That this conversation is all about them. We're giving them a little bit of tidbits to see if it's a fit or something they want more information about. But bottom line is it's about them and what they're looking for. And so that's the big takeaway that when I started doing this training, I started thinking about what my friend had said. And I thought, Mary, you really are missing that conversation. Filling in the block, the whole, you know, this name, this name, this name, this name, that's a game and that's a numbers game, but that takes it away from who the person is and what they really want. And so I'm still in the game of 20 names, 20 people by the end of the month, but I'm really going to flip that conversation to more about the person and what they want. And like you say, not reading the thing, but using it as a outline to keep us on track and help us pull out from other people what it is that they're passionate about and how we can help them. So the final one is be a good listener, encourage people to talk about themselves. So the 4, there's a lot more in this book, but let me just review what the 4 are, because I think that that it's such a great book. First one is be genuinely interested in others, which is kind of what we're talking about, the fourth one. And smile, we can do that. That's an easy one. Smile, put a smile on our faces and really start getting those smile wrinkles instead of the frown ones. Smile. Good for our faces too. Watch how people just blossom when we smile. The third one is the remember names thing. There's some tricks that we talked about. There's some ways to do that where you can remember them. And I know when Paco's with me a lot, I'll say, okay, what was their name? Right after we talk to them so that we can get that one solidified. And then be a good listener. That was the thing my friend wasn't doing last night. She wasn't listening to anybody. She was interrupting. She was talking to me. And obviously she needed to do that, but it wasn't that fun to be around, to be with those women, because I kept wanting her to shut up so somebody else could talk. So be a good listener as opposed to be a good teller. So with that, I think I've hit the timeline. Yes, definitely. Crystal, thank you so much for leading this call this morning. And Laurel, thanks for being on. I hope other people who are listening to the recording get the passion that I have for this book. I've been trying to get the book club to read it for probably a year. I finally decided if I want to read the book, just read the damn book. So I've been reading it and it's been great. It's just such a reminder of what kinds of things that we could do. Oh, and I even highlighted some other areas to read to you, but I'm not going to read that to you because you guys can read the book. But oh, the final one, I think the final way I'll end is he was at a cocktail party, a friend of his, and he happened to sit down with this biologist guy and started talking to this biologist guy. And Carnegie knows nothing about biology, but he was asking good questions because he was just fascinated by this guy. And he ended up spending like an hour of this party just talking with this guy and asking him questions and getting deeper and deeper into this conversation about the biology that he was studying. And when the party was over, the guy was leaving and he said to the hostess, "Oh my gosh, I had the most interesting conversation. That Dale Carnegie is one of the most interesting people I've ever met." And Carnegie laughed because he never said a word about himself the whole time. He was asking questions from the other guy and made the other guy feel like he was important and that it made a difference. And so with that, I will close. Let's go out and find out what people are thinking and let's pay attention to other people. All right.